Hello, everybody. Is this working? Yes, it is. Okay, well, first of all, it's really wonderful to be here. And I wanted to hold this book when we started, Jack, because Jack first sent me this book, and I got it on my computer, like just with a little manuscript as you were working on it. And it didn't have the cover. And when I saw the finished book and I saw the cover, I felt like I was extremely moved because you can't see me here. That's Martha Plimpton and a couple other of our friends in the background. But this day was one of the most miraculous days of my life. And the people who did this photo jacket, the jacket cover, whatever, couldn't know that Jack and I had worked together before, but he staged 9 hours, and Tom Stoppard would say it's only 8, it's 9 with intermissions. Yeah. He was never admitting that it was 9 hours long. It was a 9-hour play about mid-19th century Russian revolutionaries. And there was this day, unlike any day I've ever experienced in my life in rehearsal, when Jack finished staging the third play. And the whole entire ensemble, which was very big, like 39 people or something, but when you're in a little room with designers and producers and everything, it's a lot of people. And we watched you move around the room, and you're going to go here, and you're going to go here, and this is going to happen here, and the lights are going to come out here, and then you're going to step forward there, and we're all just watching. And the whole room spontaneously stood up and applauded you because it was an act of creativity that you couldn't even kind of begin to understand where it came from or what happened or how a person holds 9 hours of text in their hands and makes it resolve in one final beat. But we felt it. We felt in the room, oh, this is going to work. This is going to be incredible. And the person directing us, the orchestra, the person leading the orchestra was in charge. And not in charge in a way that was dictatorial or ego-driven it was in service of this other person we loved, Tom Stoppard, and in service of us even, of how to make each one of us thrive. And so all these 39 people felt respected, deserved to be here, and in service of something that was bigger than ourselves and bigger than you. And you, of all people, knew that. And I've never been in a rehearsal room where the entire ensembles stood up and applauded the director. And this is the image I have in my head in that day. Jack will tell me that was actually the third day of rehearsal or something. But
now it's my turn. I have to tell you what's going on in my mind. First of all, thank you for coming. How lovely to see all of you here. But we all know this, that he's the draw. I'm not the draw. I see people on the street hurling themselves in front of him to get an autograph. And I'm thinking, isn't this evening about the book? No, it's not. No, it's not. I think I could, would you like me to interview you? I think they'd probably.
No, I'm not here.
Because we could do that.
Well, we couldn't.
We could. Maybe we will.
Well, I'll bring it around.
Anyway.
Okay.
Anyway, what he is referring to is something that I myself, as a director in the American theater, realize never happens. In order to do 3 plays, a trilogy of Tom Stoppard, sponsored and produced by Lincoln Center Theater, Andre Bishop and the late Bernie Gersten, I had to have commitments from these people for a year. And it was a Stoppard trilogy that had done sort of noble work in England, but it was not like a big hit, like you thought, boy, let's get a ticket for this right now, right?
Yeah. We have to be gracious.
Well, we do. We do. And
it was a tough sell, is what you're saying.
It was a tough sell. But also, it was not only a tough sell, it was a foreign country. We did not know where we were going or what would happen. And these actors, and you saw, Richard Easton, Josh Hamilton, Martha Plimpton,
Brian O'Byrne, Billy Crudup,
Jennifer Ely. Phenomenal actors. Gave up a year of their life to do this project with no guarantees. We had none. And when I look back on it, I think to myself, I think we all feel it. We were all changed by it. We were all altered forever and marked by it in a funny way. And no one has done that before, and no one has done it since. And it is in a lifetime full of wonderful accidents and generosity and joy. That remains sort of, as they say, there's all of literature, and then there's King Lear, right? So there's all of my life, and then there's the trilogy.
Yeah. It was a funny moment. I remember the last rehearsal. It wasn't even a rehearsal. It was the last time that, the way I felt in the rehearsal room, watching you and Tom work together, I felt like I was in a band being led by Lennon McCartney or something. Where there were, you both were so good at your profession. I could tell some funny stories. Let me.
Yeah. Okay.
Can I tell? Can I?
No, I'm not. We're not going to stop you. We have to say this. We were thinking about should we prepare for this, and the thing is, we just love to be together.
So we're like, well, we'll just try to share that.
Let's just hang out. See how it works.
One of my funniest moments in my life as an actor was we had so much fun together doing this, but it was really hard. It was hard, right? And we're getting notes on the third play. So we've already opened the first play. We've already opened the second play. We're doing the first and second play in rep. We're rehearsing the third play. And we're getting notes from the director and the playwright. And Tom says, Ethan, the way that you played the role on the Wednesday matinee was frankly Reasons to Live. And the way you played it last night, it was as if we opened up the doors to 9th Avenue and let anyone audition for the role. And Jack leans over and goes, Tom, I don't know that that's a playable note. I think what he means is you should pick up the cigarette a little earlier. And I was like, meaning watching the two of you, your graciousness, and I've seen this, I saw this in the work on Shakespeare too, when you work with a magnificent actor like Kevin Kline, somebody who's a real genius, and you're also working with a giant ensemble of people of varying different degrees of ability. Watching you navigate that, of what this actor needs and what that actor needs, or in the case of Tom Stoppard, you have a playwright with a huge agenda, which is mostly clarity of utterance. That's what he wants. He wants you to say the words so everyone can hear them. That to him is a great production, right?
No, he does. He actually writes these huge plays in longhand with an ink pen on a yellow pad. Doesn't use a computer. It's like something from the 18th century. And he's absolutely right. It's all about the word, the power of the word. And
he's always right.
Yes, he is always right. Of course he's right. Tom Stoppard, for crying out loud. But at one point, I thought to myself, I wonder, having had experience, I did Hapgood, and then I did An Invention of Love. So by the time we got to the trilogy, I sort of knew how the territory worked. But I did early on think, I think Tom should speak to the actors. And because if you were a young professional and you were lucky enough to be in a play by ostensibly, maybe if not the greatest, amongst the 3 or 4 greatest dramatic writers alive, wouldn't you want to hear what he had to say? But Tom, this is so cool, Tom doesn't really care about us in that respect. He cares about the precision of what he's written and how it communicates. It's not about visuals. It's not about what they're wearing. It's all about the full power of the invested word. So I say to him at one point, how does this work when you work with other directors? Trevor Nunn, for instance. How does it work with that? He said, Trevor never lets me talk. I should have listened to that. Because he has no filter. And because he has no filter, and he's so passionate about his commitment to what he's written, he only hears that. And over 3 or 5 productions, depending on how you sort through those scripts, I realized in an odd way that Tom isn't visually oriented. He doesn't really not only see it, he doesn't really think about that. He thinks about what he has loaded into the words and to what degree you have to hear the final T, the consonant.
The difference between if and of is one letter and huge in the life of a great writer.
And so he can be truly, as we saw, brutal because it's not personal. But try to say that to a young actor.
But that's why I say I felt like it was Lennon-McCartney-ish, because you two never stepped on each other's toes. He didn't really care what you did visually. He understood that it was of value. I remember he told the company at the same time that he was telling us about the difference between if and of, and if an actor goes, if that, it's totally different than if that or of. I mean, it's a huge. But he also went on to say, do you remember this story? He went at great lengths to talk about a production that he'd seen of The Tempest, and what really moved him so much, I forget where it was, but it was an outdoor theater, and they had oriented the stage so that at the end of Act 1, the back doors opened and there was a lake, and they'd built a small walkway on the lake, and Ariel, as the doors closed, you saw Ariel walk across the water just as the doors closed. Like, she only probably went 20 feet, but it looked as if she was running across the water, and he was moved and profoundly changed by this, and he went back to read Shakespeare, and it said Ariel exits. And he went, and that was his story to communicate to us to listen to Jack. That there's things I don't get that need to be received, and I have to tell you, I had that exact same experience. I was friends, Robert Sean Leonard and I are great friends, and I went to go see, I had heard about Tom Stoppard. Everybody, I'd seen the movie of Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, but I didn't really know his work. Robert Sean Leonard was in Invention of Love, and I went to go see it, and I was floored, gobsmacked, whatever the word, and I bought the play at the, where they serve drinks or whatever at the
A bar.
A bar, yeah. No, but they, when you're walking out the theater, they're selling T-shirts and stuff, and they also had the play, and I bought the play, and I'm not this kind of I went home and I read it, and this is part of why our friendship happened so fast, I think. I remember sitting on my bed and going, I don't get it. I don't get it. Why did I cry in that scene? Why did I laugh so? I don't even get it. But you got it, and you communicated it. And so when you're watching the theater experience, what you're getting is this powerful, powerful intellect, powerful ideas, powerful research. I mean, serious human communication. And you see it set to music. You see it designed. You see the rhythm done right. You see, that production. Do you feel that production of Invention of Love is one of your best?
I do, but let me just help you here a little.
Yeah, thank you, because I need help, obviously. I thought I was doing well, but now I obviously need help. Okay.
Well, it's actually in the book. A lot of this is stuff that I've tried to communicate, because what is my responsibility? If you're dealing with a great writer, be it Shakespeare or Tom Stoppard or any stage along the way, and I've done happy musicals all my life as well. What is your responsibility? Your responsibility, for me, is to the writer. to be their ear, their voice, their sound. Now, all the words on the page, there they are, but they're flat. They're two-dimensional. Invention of Love was about being at Oxford as a young human being, young men, young women, but in this case, particularly intellectual young men. And I was lucky enough with the first Stoppard play I did, Hapgood, which was about twinning quantum physics. I mean, Tom doesn't write about one thing. He writes about a universe. And then you just figure it out. But I had Stockard Channing playing the leading role. And she's a very sexy girl. And she's good at doing that. She's very, very good at doing that. So I took advantage of it. And when that happened, the combination of a kind of dangerous whiplash sexuality and high intellect really worked. And I thought, Tom needs sex. Who doesn't? But in this case, this is what fuels. First of all, the man is so attractive. He's catnip to women. I'm sorry if that's sexist, but there it is. I've seen it happen. He's electrifying. One of the most seductive people I've ever known in my life. And
my mother's greatest disappointment in me is that I didn't set her up with Sir Tom.
Is that right?
Yeah. That was your job, Ethan. Yeah.
You're sort of making it mine now. Anyway, I realized that what I could perhaps do was add an element that he hadn't put on the page, that was implicit in his makeup, in his own passion, in the humanity that he has in yards. And so I did it with everything we ever did. I mean, I remember going to the University of Michigan when I was 18. Some of you probably are close to all that. Even the nerds were sexy. Everybody was hot. They were, you know what I mean? We were away from home. We were letting our plumage out. We were showing off for each other. We were using all the things we'd absorbed, but you can't use at home. We were all by ourselves. And suddenly, the individual, color that marks each of us as a human being began to have its gentle way toward. And that is also part of the attraction. So every time I got a Stoppard script, I tried to think about it in those terms.
It's funny listening to you say that because I remember this is 20 years ago or a long time ago. I had the benefit of leading a Q&A with you, and a young person in the audience asked you what the most important quality in being a director, what did you think is the most important quality in being a director? And this is pre-Me Too, this is pre a lot of woke thinking and everything. You answered a lack of sexual misconduct. And I remember it being very surprising to me that you said that, because that wasn't where the conversation was going. But this young person, and it started the room, and you talked very beautifully about leadership and safety and creativity, and that part of art is what we love about art, whether it's a great painting or a great movie or a great piece of theater, or it's like church with sex. But you have to handle the sexuality in a responsible way, and that starts with the director.
Yeah, I mean, there's a connection between theater, and there has been since the beginning of time. Religion and theater went hand in hand for a very long time. And those of you who have had any experience with formal religion, you realize to what degree that show is part of the evocation of something beyond what you know. So the word faith becomes implicit when you're working in the theater. What are we doing, really? We're trying, you know what's going on. You paid to see it. You come, you sit in the seat, you don't know the people next to you. You don't know the actors, but you know they were paid. They didn't just come here because they were moved. You know it's arranged. But if it happens that night when you're in the audience, when the text and the instrument and the moment align, you are moved. There is the illusion of life. And we don't know. We can't guarantee it's going to happen. Come again Thursday. She wasn't any good. It wasn't what I saw. That is that leap of faith where the story becomes personal is what we live for. And what we come back and back and back to see. To see that moment when Callas sings Visidarte in the best way, and she lets something out that she didn't do the last performance, and your life is changed. And so our job, basically, is to, with faith, honor, put that in front of you to see if we can get through, whether we can make the magic happen. And so if I, as a director, so that's intimacy, isn't it? I mean, we have to be really close. We have to, I have my fingers in your guts when you're vulnerable to say, I don't think so, or over there, or something that you might be able to find truth in.
It's an amazing feeling when you have a great director and you're on stage by yourself. It's something because, yes, it happens in previews because I'll be acting and there'll be a group of people and there'll be one person over there whose laugh I recognize, his, right? And so sometimes he'll laugh at a strange moment, and it's a psychic connection that happens to say, he's saying, keep going, I like it. They didn't laugh, it's good. You know, there's this, and then what happens is, he can't come to every show. The thing runs 6-7 months, right? You know, but I still have that connection with the audience that is you. And a great director, you have this magic that I'll tell you about, that when you have a great leader, you actually, when I was a younger actor, you can't help it. You're egotistical. You want to get great reviews. You want people to like it. And if you have a great director, this weird magic happens where you have so much more respect for Jack than you do anybody who writes about your show. That if Jack says it's good, it's good. Because Jack will tell you if it's not good, and he will. And you hear that voice in your head, and it's hard. Sometimes you're on stage, and you hear him going, faster, or you hear him go, pull back, or you didn't get that word right, you're rushing. I hear it. It's so loud in here because of the intimacy that you're talking about that's created through the right kind of rehearsal space where you feel safe, but it is intimate, and you feel yourself being conducted. And there's a certain kind of friction when you resist it that can be good for the audience. There's a certain kind of friction that is wrong, and we find it together. And it's this magic. It's a funny thing about directing, and I see it in both your books, and I love it, which is people, they know what a quarterback does. They don't always know what a coach does. And most people don't know they know what LeBron James does. They know what Michael Jordan does. They know what Messi does, you know, because they see the ball go in the net. And Jack's whole job is creating a situation where the right kind of energy is happening, that the ball is going to go in the net. And that's chess. It starts on day one. I've seen Jack lacerate a person for being late for rehearsal simply to make a point that to everyone else, and also he was shy on his lines and he was being way overconfident in rehearsal. But what it does is it's coaching. It communicates the thing to everybody else. Oh, I didn't want to get humiliated like that. And sometimes you just have to do it. One side note, I was directing my first play, and I called Jack to say, I don't know if you even remember this, but we'd had a breakthrough in rehearsal, and we had our first really great preview. And the entire cast went out and got drunk. And the next night was awful. And I called Jack and I was like, I want to kill everybody. And I was like, what do I do? And you were so precise. I said, is there anyone who didn't do it? That's what you asked me. Yeah, you don't remember this? And I said, well, Josh Hamilton didn't do it. It was a friend of ours and an actor. And he said, okay, here's what you do. You have to throw the biggest shit fit any of these people ever saw and tell them that if it wasn't for Josh, you would resign today. You said it. And let me tell you, it worked. Okay? I came in there, and you said to me, now this is going to be the performance of your life. I need tears. I need, these people are abandoning the playwright. This is not about them doing a good job. This playwright, you told me this playwright's life is on the line. If there's a bad production of a first play, people think it's a bad play. They don't understand it was a bad production. It's your fault, not the playwright's. You have to get, and if they're going out and getting hammered, because I was so mad because they were showing videos of a guy puking, and yeah, it was so, I was like, I didn't know what to do in rehearsal, and then the show sucked, and then you told me this, and I threw the biggest tantrum. Woo! Everybody came together, and
I don't have a lot of that to offer. But I'm sitting here thinking a couple of things as you're saying this. First of all, I mean, when you get to be in this decade, which is way down the line, and you've done it as long as I have, you suddenly look back and think, well, how did this even happen? And I think, we're all fake. We're all phony a lot of the time. We're all striving to make an impression. We're all trying to be noticed. We're trying to be right. We're trying to have other people think we're right. And I keep thinking to myself in terms of, what am I writing about? What am I trying to say? The terrifying thing is, I chose a career in which the only way to succeed is to tell the truth. And it's really hard, guys. It's really hard to be with somebody you love and admire as much as I do him, and want him to feel good about what we're doing together. And yet, it wasn't right. And I use it all the time in my life now, where somebody says to me, what do I do about blah, 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 blah? And the stupid, simple answer is tell the truth. Just tell the truth. If they can't hear the truth, what are you talking about? And if you can do the truth with love, with compassion, gently, not brutally, you can get through on some level. Whether it's, drugs, whether it's infidelity, whether it's any horrifying thing. When we hear the truth, we know it. And when you have people of quality that are striving to be better, you have to be careful, and you have to tell them the truth. For a long time, I just wanted to be popular. I wanted to be a lot of fun. I know how to create a climate in which people are having a good time. It's not enough. And a couple of times early in my career, I made the mistake of saying, it's fine. And they saw it in my eyes or in their own makeup mirror. It was not fine. So they couldn't trust me. And if you can't trust each other, I mean, that's where we get into the idea of the politics and the wokeness and all the rest of it. You have to make the commitment to tell the truth to the best of your ability. Or if you don't know it, say, I don't know. The first time I said as a director, when somebody asked me a question, what do I do? And I said, I don't know. And I didn't. But we will try. And we will then mutually figure it out. That's a big load off your back if you do that.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. Do you remember the first, when you think about like, how did I get here? Do you remember the first time where you really felt the positive feelings of what it is like to be a director?
I had a tough childhood in that respect. I was at the University of Michigan. Suddenly, in the late '60s, in the early '60s, this company arrived to be the resident company. It was Ellis Rabb's APA repertory company, an itinerant group of young actors devoted to the classics. Wonderful people, Rosemary Harris, Will Geer, Nancy Marchand. I mean, wonderful people. George Grizzard. They were none of them that then. And I saw this astonishing combination of enthusiasm and smartness and sex and energy. And it was like following a light. I wanted to go there. So I did. I got to them, and I was a pest, and I became, for no money at all, the assistant to the directors. They paid me $125 a week, which in the 60s was half of what I was making when I was teaching, but still, I could sort of justify it. Well, the directors were Ellis Rabb, Alan Schneider, Eva Le Gallienne, John Houseman. They were phenomenal people. And I got to sit next to them and take the notes. Now, Ellis was glamorous. Ellis was everything I wasn't. He had hair. He was tall. He was thin. He smoked. He was so cool. He wore his coat with a collar up. And he'd come in the back of the theater and look at the stage. And I would think, what does he see? I don't see anything there. I had no mystery, zero mystery. And I was surrounded by glamorous people who had mystery. So for a long time, I behaved in the manner of. I tried to take the ideas that they did and the gestures that they did and the phrases that they did and make them my own. And because I was very sort of observant and keen, it wasn't bad. It wasn't me, but it wasn't bad. I built on what I had observed to work, and until I was brave enough to tell the truth, the real truth, it was okay. And then I had like 10 years on the road when I was a gun for hire. And I did whatever they asked me to do. Some really good stuff, some not good stuff. But I was trying to fill my calendar, trying to make a living. And during that period of time, occasionally, something of me happened. And I thought, oh, that's what it is. It isn't making it up. It's releasing it. It's, again, another kind of honesty. And I tested it, and it worked. And because then I was fortunate enough, for 25 years, I ran the Globe Theater in San Diego. And if you run a theater, you're raising money a lot, you're talking to people a lot, and you're picking up what doesn't work. Somebody supposed to come and do this Bell Book and Candle terrible play. And they cancel because they're going on their honeymoon or something. And you think, okay, I'll do it. And you learn. Because I think everything teaches you something, particularly if you need to make it meaningful for yourself. So that, I figured it out. But it wasn't an epiphany. And it wasn't easy because I did not and never had and never will have that glamour that certain theater people can conjecture. I mean, Guthrie and those people, Olivier, they're masters at illusion. I am as plain as the nose on your face.
It's funny hearing you say that because I had this wonderful opportunity. Part of the reason why Jack and I met is I did a play directed by a friend of yours, Nikki Martin, and an actor who adored you and worked for you a lot, Richard Easton. And Richard Easton used to talk to me a lot about how great you were. But it was interesting. I ended up working with Richard a lot, with the two of you a lot together. And it was fascinating because by the time I was working with Jack was already a master. I mean, you were beyond the period you're talking about now. You were yourself and you were happening. And it was revelatory. But there was a little part of Richard that always saw you as Ellis's assistant. And it was, it helped me, strangely, because it humanized. You know, if you hero worship people too much and you think it was very interesting where, well, Jack wasn't always like that. Jack got that. I would say Jack would do this notes session that would be breathtaking. The thing that I would wish for any young actor in the world today is to get notes from Jack, because he makes you understand. He makes you see beyond yourself. He makes you really understand that you're a part of an ancient, noble profession, and he considers the audience, he considers the context of the evening and what we're doing in this moment in time and why this moment is different than another. And it's releasing because it's not about you. And so you can give yourself over. And it's a beautiful thing. But and I would go to Richard's dressing room and say, "What? That was the best note session of my life." And he'd go, "He got all that from Ellis." And I'd be like, "God, what a grouchy old dude." But I only tell that story to go in context. I often feel like one of the things that's so hard for young actors, young artists, whatever they are, is that this country promotes a huge talent myth that, like, you're born, you're a genius, or you're a sucker, you know? And the thing about you is you have always impressed on me and all the people whose lives you touch, those through your work are intimate with, that you are as good as you can become, as much as you work for, as much as you dedicate, and you can get better. You know, and it's part of my frustration with the excellence that I see across the ocean. There's so many wonderful English actors. And part of why they grow up so well is there's a culture of nurturing. There's apprenticeship. There's an acceptance of mentorship. And so then you see Judi Dench, you see Anthony Hopkins, you see Ian McKellen, because they all played supporting roles for 25 years. And in our country, the second you show any bit of talent, they want to hand you a ton of money and make you the lead. And now you're the lead of a show with all these actors who are more experienced than you. You're just off balance from the get-go, and it's not the actor's fault. It's the culture's fault. You know, and so I think American actors have to work very hard to work on their own mentorship to make sure that they're not prioritizing the wrong things.
I have to be careful what I say here, but this is a very difficult time we're in right now because Hairspray is a show of mine. It's out on the road. Sound of Music is a show of mine. That's out on the road. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory was touring. That's out on the road. And now, overnight, somebody can become a star on TikTok. Literally a star. What is considered to be a star. And as a result, they have a following. And as a result, they're attractive in terms of a light pole around which production can happen. People will come and see them. So I spend a lot of time on the road trying to explain to people who have been fortunate enough to get that lightning in a bottle and then not know what to do with it or how to sustain it. And suddenly it becomes very frightening, very scary. I mean, I've said to so many people, God help you from early success. Because if you do, you're going to be probably very unhappy and quite neurotic, wondering, what did you have that you don't have now? But if in fact I keep saying to them, it's not a job. If you think this is a job, it's not a job, it's a calling. You have to feel, God help you, compelled to do it, or nothing will work. You don't want to ask anybody to go into the theater. You just don't. It'll, as we say, it'll break your heart.
There's a wonderful, I believe I came across it. There's a Catholic monk named Thomas Merton who writes very beautifully, but he was talking about the novices, the new monks, and how his job as an older monk was to discern whether they were running away from something or running towards something. And if you're running away from something, you're going to fall into a lot of traps. You have to go back there. If they were really running towards a spiritual life and running towards an inner life with God, and that was it, it's going to go great. It's going to go great. And if you're running away from your parents or running away from your sexuality or running away from society, all that stuff is going to catch up with you. And the same is true in the arts. If you're running towards the vocation as a whole, as a total experience, not what Jack's going to do, what Ethan's going to do. It's like, I want to be a part of this collective consciousness that is the arts, which is communicating. If that's what you want, it's going to go great. I agree. Because you're going to be able to do that. If you want it to like serve you, it tends to break down.
Sometimes you do. Sometimes you do want it. No, come on.
Oh, come on. We all do. I know.
And you know,
Jack's the kind of director that will call you up.
Are you nauseous yet? I just want to know.
Say, all right. What is
help?
No, if I know, because I've worked with you on this, I know your relationship to Shakespeare, and I know your relationship to Stoppard. What would you say was another defining writer that you were in service of that helped teach you?
Well, I don't know. Here's the deal. I mean, not tonight, but I can be funny. It's not tonight. But I can be. You have to take this on, you know.
Yeah. There have been nights.
So I think funny. I mean, I just think funny. And it gets me through a lot of tough stuff. Because my life, even though it hasn't been all charming and wonderful, or without its sadness, is pretty funny. I mean, the fact that I'm here with him, hearing this conversation about somebody I have no idea what the hell he's talking about half the time, is pretty funny to me. So I'm drawn toward that. I always look at the brighter side of it to see if I have to say this. Okay, I'm going to say this. I'm here to defend comedy. I'm here to say, let's hear it for comedy. And I'll tell you why. You can be moved in many, many ways. You can be moved to tears. You can find yourself sobbing. You can be surprised. I mean, go see Tom's play, Leopoldstadt, at the end. At the end, I found I was lit. I'd read the play. It was not mine to direct. I was very happy that it wasn't. I wasn't asking to do it. I went to see the play, and I'd read it, and I knew it, and I know the writer, and at the end, I was sobbing at a transition that happened. It so killed me. A lot of ways you can do it. There's only one way to laugh. Suddenly, involuntarily, you expel all the air in your lungs because you can't help it. And everybody is doing the same thing. And there are people, not only do you not know, you don't want to know. You're all sitting in the dark with these people, and at a moment, you all howl with laughter. And I think to myself, well, that's the answer of being a human being. You know, you can dress properly, you can be attractive, you can have hair if you're lucky. But if you have a sense of humor, you can get through anything. And I think that comedy is what keeps us from falling over the edge in despair. And so if you want to feel better, laugh. And if you really want to be healthy, hang with somebody who makes you laugh. I'll be just outside the door.
I saw this production you did, speaking of laughter, with Nathan Lane, The Nance. And it was one of my favorite shows I've ever seen, and it captured exactly what you're saying. He is so funny, and and that production was so brilliant and moving. And when something is comic and moves you, that to me is
full meal.
That's the arrow right through the center of the universe, because there's just nothing like it. Anyway, what was that experience like? How did that come to be?
Well, Andre Bishop, that was a brand new play that was written for Nathan. We did it at Lincoln Center. We did readings of it. It was about the gay movement in the 20s and the 30s, the fact that it was illegal and that there were people raided, and Ethan was the right instrument for
Nathan,
that.
not me. I wish I was.
Nathan was the right instrument for that because he has all of that range. And like you, by the way, and I say this in front of your friends here, the two of you, I love watching you go through your life because both of you are making yourselves, every time you work, better actors, taking more risks, stretching yourselves, putting yourselves out there, not taking the easy way out. And having seen that over 10 or 15 years with him and with you, and you think, oh, somebody who has the opportunity to do this can take it somewhere else. And that's what you've done. Your documentary work with the Newmans, the fact that you're doing a movie now with your daughter, who's frankly is a bigger star than you are, probably. How does that feel, by the way?
It's so awesome. It's amazing.
Must be wonderful and complicated.
It's not so complicated. I often have this thought, which is that, oh, you must have all the time. I wish that I could give to her all the mentors that I've had, because what she's doing with the limited resources she has is so mind-blowing. I want her to have the experiences working with you on Henry IV. I want her to have the experiences that I've had with Richard Linklater or Denzel Washington. I want her to own all those because, they're so hard won, and it's the pull, the kind of tidal pull of mediocrity and the tidal pull of accumulation of wealth, celebration of status. It's just so intense. And it only gets more and more intense. And on the other side of it, on the arts is all this joy and creativity and things that will last and meaningful relationships. And you just want to free young people from being concerned with any of the things that don't matter. But I just wanted to work with you. That's all I want. All right, I think it's time for us to ask for some questions. Am I right about that? Yes, I am. Does anybody have a question that you want to go first?
There's a phrase that, I'm trying to remember, names now are so bad for me because I just lose them. There have been too many people in my life, and so I can't remember that. Okay, I'll give you the quote, and maybe it'll come back to me. Sometimes it does. Where is the discovery the exciting discovery with which you began? Very often we are asked to repeat. And in the theater, you're asked to do it every night. So there must have been something between you and it that made you vulnerable, made you honest, made you synthetic, completely surprising. And the problem with repeating it is that you have to hype it to make it happen again. So very often when an actor has that problem, I ask them, particularly with comedy, I find, if I did that tonight and I did that and got a bigger laugh, finally I'm doing this with the performance. I'm collecting all the tricks that I thought you were laughing at when actually you were laughing at the text. So basically what I try to do is to push it back and say, let's not worry about that. Where is the exciting discovery with which you began? I can see the name. Does anybody know that?
I remember you saying this thing to me once about, you're not funny. The play is funny.
Oh, yeah, I always do that.
Yeah.
I made everybody in Hairspray put that on their makeup mirror. I said, you're not funny, it's funny. Because if you commit yourself to comedy, it's serious business. And the more serious it is, the funnier it is. But if you're being funny, you're getting in the way. Sometimes it's that. Does that make sense? Good. Yeah. Did you hear that? Do you understand what that is? What she's saying? Do you hear it? We're supposed to repeat it. Do you want me to repeat it? I don't think I can. Well, I mean, I think what you're saying is, are you available? I mean, you know, I think there's some times when you just want to stay home and watch television. But there are times when you think there's something out there in the dark, I've heard, that might apply to me. And so you leave your den, you leave your home, your loved ones, your animal, and you go to the theater to sit in the dark for a great deal of money these days, alas. For what? There is some siren call that you're missing. There's something in the average life that you are committed to that needs ecstasy, that needs a recharge. You can get it a little bit from White Lotus on television. I'm just saying. You can get it in a film if the film is extraordinary. But when it happens in front of you, it's worth leaving your house because you're not in control anymore. Here's the deal. We're friends, right? This is not a professional thing that's going. We just love to hang out. And unfortunately, you're a captive audience while we're doing this, right? But, I mean, you don't know what we're going to do. Do you? I find that possibility. Suppose we got off our chairs right now and went into the audience. Well, you're awake again, aren't you? There is that thing about being in a room with someone whose energy is not responsible to you that makes you excited. And I think that's what you're saying. And vive la différence, I say.
It's funny, I once, the first play that Jack directed me in was Henry IV, Part 1 and 2, and Kevin Kline is playing Falstaff. And there was an evening, and it was Christmas Eve, and my character died, and his character had long soliloquies over my dead body, which is one of the things I could be. If I meet Shakespeare in heaven, I'm going to say, why leave us on stage in all that armor after a giant fight, after you're so exhausted, like trying not to make your chest go. I mean, I've just been in a huge sword fight.
He doesn't care.
He doesn't care. I know. Okay, thank you. But the point is, I'm there on stage trying to hold my breath so my armor doesn't shake while Kevin does his monologue, and somebody's cell phone goes off, right? And Kevin launches into the chimes. Is that the chimes at midnight I hear? And he launches into an improv in iambic pentameter. Yeah, about cell phones and Christmas and how annoying audiences are. And I start laughing so hard on the stage that makes the audience laugh. Because I'm going, the dead body, right? And then he starts talking about, is he not dead? I know not. You know what I mean? And then they roar and applaud. Well, the point is, 20 fucking years later, I'm walking down the street, and a guy says to me, I was there Christmas Eve when that cell phone rang, and I hugged the guy. I know exactly what he's talking about, because we were there together. It only happened then. I remember it, he remembers it, and it was something we shared, which is way different than a movie, which is instantly nostalgic and its own thing, and everybody has their own private relation. It's not something we share. It's a different art form in that way. But the theater, it's living, and it does have the opportunity for magic. And I think what you were talking about is sometimes the audience resist it, sometimes they want it, sometimes great directors are good at cultivating it. How do you do that? How do you whether you're Jim Morrison screaming, wake up! Like there's a reason why he did that, right? Is he just wants to like get everybody off balance, to give them the song.
Well, yeah. I mean, and also, we're in the business of putting things into your head that are unlike everything else. You measure your life on the witnessed moments. You remember when so-and-so died. I mean, we're all going to go through January 6th for the rest of our natural lives, because that never happened before. And so our lives are changed by it. People will say, I heard Horowitz at Carnegie Hall at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, which is the only time he would perform. And if you were lucky enough to witness a great person like that, they'd actually sear your imagination, and nothing else replaces it.
I think that's the note we're supposed to end on. Thank you guys so much. You finished, right? Hi, son.